Hey guys, ever wondered how companies like Amazon, Nike, and Sainsbury's are so successful? What it is that sets them apart from the others? Competition. The rivalry they need to push harder and to be better, constantly staying ahead of their competitors. Companies like these three strategically work to be the best. But how? Let us explain by looking into two well known broadcasting companies, the BBC and Channel 4. Everyone in the UK knows the BBC and Channel 4. And if you don't, here's a quick rundown. The BBC was formed in 1922. That's 96 years of broadcasting through TV, radio, and online. Channel 4 was created in 1980, however, did not start to broadcast until 1982. Like the BBC, Channel 4 operates across a range of platforms, TV and online, but not radio. Considering how popular both broadcasters are, this short video is going to show you how they have strategically been successful, what different strategies they use, and who ultimately dominates. Let's start by looking at the external factors.
Quarters 5 forces. For BBC and Channel 4, we identified that these would be the same as they operate in the same industry. Competitive rivalry was high. National and global competitors in the industry are strong. There are few in numbers, and the industry is growing at a slow pace, which makes intensity and competition amongst the rivals high. Threats of new entrants. The biggest entry barrier in the industry is the extraordinary setup costs. Existing channels have strong customer loyalty. There are already strict regulations placed by government in this industry. Bargaining power of suppliers is medium. Suppliers are both domestic and international, with each holding a certain level of power. Also, popularity, experience, and demand of the listeners or the viewers. Bargaining power of buyers is high. Due to the intense rivalry and availability of different sources, the buyers or the customers have a wide array of choices. The switching cost of buyers is also low. BBC and Channel 4 are both free, like many other channels, national and international, therefore they cannot force their customers to keep watching. Threats of substitute are high. Similar services are available easily from substitutes at even more convenience, such as alternative channels, internet, and on demand. Also, the cost to switch to substitutes is low. For external analysis, we'll be using Pestel to examine the BBC and Channel 4's industry. Political, we identified for both of them hard Brexit would offer instability. Economic, rising content budget. The BBC depends on TV licence fees, so it would need a stable economy. For Channel 4, changed advertising revenues. Channel 4 depends on advertising for 94% of its revenue. For social cultural, we identified a change in viewer behaviour. This would be affecting both organisations. Technological, for both of them, we identified a major growth in the use of online and connected devices such as on-demand, which has meant new global players. This links on to legal, which has meant that there's been a non-regulation of new players as the same strict rules that they had for traditional broadcasters. Environmental, we identified sustainability affecting both companies, the BBC having the greener broadcasting approach and Channel 4 having the environment policy signed by its chief executive, demonstrating senior level commitment.
Ever seen one of these before? Don't worry, let us explain. A perceptual map is a marketing research technique which allows us to see how consumers view a product. In this case, broadcasters. Within the UK broadcast industry, not only is there BBC and Channel 4, but ITV and Channel 5 to consider. Based on audience share and revenue, we can see that Channel 4 and BBC dominate over Channel 5 and ITV. Channel 5 has 6.5 audience share and 2.5 million revenue. ITV has 22% audience share and 3.5 million revenue. But what about the BBC and Channel 4? Well, Channel 4 has only 10% audience share, a lot of lower than ITV, however made a staggering 1 billion in revenue. The BBC audience share is the largest of them all, with 32% and a massive revenue of 5 billion. This perceptual map outlines where these broadcasters stand. The McKinsey-Sevens framework is an excellent approach to understanding the strategies used by both the BBC and Channel 4. It uses 7 aspects of a strategy to establish why the BBC are ahead of Channel 4 in the broadcasting industry.
McKinsey's 7 framework is made up of strategy, structure, systems, skills, /leadership, staff, shared values/culture. For BBC, they use a flexible approach to planning with a clear sense of direction, whereas with Channel 4, they're very much a top-down system that don't involve managers or customer-facing staff. For structure, BBC uses a clear chain of command, clear roles and responsibilities, whereas Channel 4 are overly bureaucratic and might benefit from a flatter structure. For the systems, Channel 4 can improve systems for internal communication and also customer complaint handling, whereas BBC have joined up processes, e.g. new produce development, excellent customer management systems. For the skills, Channel 4 have possible skill weaknesses in internal comms and perhaps creative thinking, whereas BBC staff are highly skilled in IT and media areas. For the style/leadership, in BBC, leaders are very experienced and charismatic and well respected within the industry. Whereas for Channel 4, leaders tend to be remote from the frontline staff and perception is that they don't listen enough and they would benefit from being more friendly and accessible. For the staff, BBC has over 1,000 employees, good training and rewards, and there's a good level of motivation. Whereas for Channel 4, they're potentially overstaffed versus competitors. Labour is 80% of their costs and only 72% from their main rivals. For BBC, the shared values/culture, there's a strong sense of organisational purpose and they're committed to goals across the organisation. Whereas with Channel 4, they're not seen as a listening culture and senior managers are seen as remote.
So we've taken you through all the external strategies. Now let's look at the internal, starting with resources. With Channel 4 being a publicly owned company, they do not have the investors but work on a commission basis. However, the BBC do have the option of shares within the company, but it does come at a cost for those willing to join. By taking a look at the resources used, we can see what each company uses in order to give them a competitive edge. These large national companies vary in so many ways. Even though both are broadcasting companies, their means to function are different. For example, Channel 4 rely on advertising and sponsorship to gain revenue. However, the BBC has royalties and rental collections, public contributions via TV licensing. So we've spoken about the technical aspects of both the BBC and Channel 4. What about the financial? That's right, which broadcaster is on top? Who made the most profit? Well, in 2017, the BBC spent $2 billion and made a staggering $5 billion. That's right, between wages, content spent, premise hire, you name it, they spent it. Channel 4, on the other hand, only spent $675 million and made $1.2 billion. The BBC is currently dominating in not only the monetary sense, but also in the market share, holding 32% of the audience share, unlike Channel 4, who only hold 10%.
To the strategic approach, BBC make the most creative and distinctive output. They produce innovative online channel to create a more personal broadcast, which serves all of their audiences. It improves value for money for a simpler and more efficient and more open BBC. In comparison, Channel 4, however, has a slogan that reads, "Our strategy for building a sustainable sector throughout the UK focuses on facilitating contact between indies and commissioners, seed funding via Alpha Fund, investment in talent and skills development, and so growing hubs of creative excellence." This was a quote from Channel 4 in 2018.
In conclusion, we're going to establish who dominates the market using a SWOT analysis. Let's take a look at their strengths and weaknesses. As part of their public remit, Channel 4 must broadcast content that is innovative, challenging, that showcases new talent, and programs that strike up debates as well as inspire. However, BBC are self-regulated, but their responsibilities, functions, and financial operations are stated by the Royal Charter. Channel 4 has a financial deficit of 17 million, whereas the BBC is expanding the services they provide with the potential to gain a larger revenue. How about the opportunities and threats? Like the BBC, Channel 4 could also expand the services they produce, such as the radio following that the BBC has managed to obtain, which in turn will increase their reach. The BBC has award-winning content, which is not only a threat to Channel 4, but also to the other competitors within the market. This means the BBC will always have to fight to keep their advantage within the industry. So let's summarise all the knowledge. The BBC has been dominating the broadcast industry for a number of decades. Looking at their strategy, you can clearly see what Channel 4 is missing. The BBC have attacked all forms of broadcasting. They have established themselves within their industry. They are well known to everybody. Does this mean Channel 4 are ultimately inferior? Well, taking into account that they don't make as much money as the BBC, you could very well say yes. They are different channels, they showcase different programmes, attract various different audiences. But when it comes down to it, they are no match for the BBC.